Morning. Hope everyone's well. It is Wednesday. It is the 2022 version of September the 14th. And you're back here with me, Sean Butler, at the Spurs Talk Show with the co-host Bugsy Malone as we look to review a very frustrating night in Lisbon, eventually losing 2-0 to Sporting CP. Two very late goals that turned a very disappointing performance into a very disappointing result. Now, where to begin really? I mean, I've seen a lot of the reaction on Twitter, in the community, on YouTube, and in WhatsApp groups that I'm in. And generally speaking, you're seeing two conversations happening, and they're kind of binary. Some people were taking the chance to go straight to Daniel Levy's to blame. Daniel Levy's the problem. Do not blame the manager. Do not blame the players. You blame Levy for this. He didn't do enough in the window. And and look, as somebody that isn't Levy out, but I can appreciate the frustrations with the window. I've said it myself on the show many times. We didn't back up the truck and go big on a right wing back, and that will prove to be, and it proved to be last night, a problem. We didn't get a high quality centre back to give Eric Dyer some competition, and that will prove to be a problem. And we didn't get a talented, creative player in the midfield in the shape of Maddison or whoever, take your pick. And that could and may well prove to be a problem. But this is the first time where the result and the performance have both been bad, or both been poor. Many times this season, Tottenham fans have come away thinking, well, we didn't play great, but we're still undefeated and we still got the points. And so there's reasons to be positive. You'd rather play badly and win than play well and lose. And it's only a matter of time until Tottenham clicks. And I was one of those people. I am one of those people. I still think it's only a matter of time until Tottenham clicks. But last night was the first experience of us losing this season. And the performance was poor across the pitch, and we'll come to that in a second. But so you have the people that are Levy out, that have sharpened their knives and have come back out and saying, don't blame Conte for his lack of substitutions, or his tactics, or his refusal to play certain players that deserve a chance, and refusal to drop certain players that have temporarily run out of chances. This is all Levy's fault. And like I say, I don't subscribe to that at all. On a game-by-game basis, I don't subscribe to that. In a general vibe, I understand why they have the view that they have. It's not mine, but I can appreciate it. And then you've got the other half, or the other section of the team, of the fan base that I've looked at, and they are saying, well, where's Conte? Why can't we throw some mud at Conte? Conte's not infallible, and some of his decision making in recent weeks with regards the players he's playing, the players he isn't playing, the fact he doesn't like to make substitutions, some of those things, come on Bugsy, we're going this way today, some of those decisions do require critique, and I agree with them as well, but I don't necessarily think it's all Conte's fault. I think that there's, that there should be like like anything in life, it's neither one nor the other, it's usually a shade of both. And how much allocation of blame? Well, look, I do think that there's areas where we needed improvement and we didn't get it. I completely agree with that. I do think we needed a creative player to be able to go to a 3-5-2. If we went to a 3-5-2 last night and made a substitution for that role, you're going to have to bring in Skippy or Bissouma, who are sixes really, aren't they? They're not really eights, and they're certainly not tens. So that's off. So you'd have to just reposition Decky, or reposition Richarlison, or reposition Kane, which, you know, is what we do anyway during the game. Harry Kane does come back and receives the ball in a 10 role. So the people saying that we need to go to a 3-5-2, I think it's Daniel Levy and Paratici's fault that we don't really have the option to do that and put a dedicated number 10 in there who can do the job. I also think it is a concern that we didn't get a centre back. I've said it, you know, we don't have someone who can fill in for Eric Dyer, and Eric Dyer is not a sensational centre back. He's not a bad centre back. I think he's a good centre back. I think he's been a great steward and a good leader for Tottenham, and Tottenham's defence has been fairly steady, very steady in fact, in the Premier League for 18 games, you know. So, but we don't have anyone to come in for him. So, you know, is he going to play 45 games this season? 50 games this season? So there's a problem there, and I think at the right wing back spot everyone agrees that we've got too many right wing backs, none of whom are head and shoulders above the others, and they're all kind of Lucas Moura, Decky, don't know if he can play there. That's a big risk. And then you've got Doherty, Emerson, and Jed Spence. Now, to me, Emerson last night was absolutely shocking. Like, he missed two, or something you could say 2.5 chances up front, up top, and he was in the sort of position as a right wing back would get into under the Conte formation. He was in the right position. He almost looked like he ducked or was afraid of heading the ball on that chance. On the one where he kind of whipped his foot around it at the back post, I don't think he could have done too much better with that one. But there was a couple other chances as well where he was in the right spot, but just didn't have the confidence or the technique to do what was necessary. There's a problem in the right wing back spot, because on top of that, defensively, he was awful. He got nutmegged for the second goal. He got twisted and turned inside and out for a lot of the game. And I think that people that are sympathisers to his plight would say, well, he's very good defensively. Well, last night he didn't look very good defensively. So I think that there has to be a change. And what I would say, guys, is I actually think that, first of all, let me finish the point about Conte. I think that Conte is guilty, does deserve some criticism of only ever using one substitute. Last night, by the 90th minute, Sporting had 5 outfield subs on the pitch, if I'm not mistaken. I think they used all their subs. So 1 in every 2 players outside in the outfield was brand spanking new, fresh legs. Now, some people would say the reason why Conte doesn't use the bench is because he doesn't look at the bench and see anyone that can change the game or that are necessarily better than the players that are on the field. To me, if you had, I think that's a nonsense argument for 2 reasons. I think one is, if you had somebody on the bench who was better than who was on the pitch, then they should be on the pitch anyway. So your bench should always be a system of alternatives, and hopefully the drop down in quality isn't that stark. And I don't think it is anymore. But more importantly, I think that you have to reflect and say, would an Arthur, however you say his name, a 100% fresh-legged Arthur, would he have a better or a worse chance at beating our right wing back if it was Emerson, who was on the tail end of a 90-minute workout, so 10% low battery Emerson, or a 95% Matt Doherty? Would Ugarte have, when he got the ball in the midfield and he put it through to Marcus Edwards, would he have had a better chance at beating a Pierre-Emile Højbjerg that was at 20%, that had run himself ragged all day? Or would he have a better chance of beating a Bentancur that had just come on the pitch? 90% Bentancur is better than a 20% Højbjerg. A 90% Doherty is better than a 20% Emerson. A 90% Decky is better than a 10% Son. Like, for me, substitutions are not just about trying to improve the players on the pitch, and when you look at the bench and you don't see players that are better than those on the pitch, therefore you shouldn't use them. To me, as long as there's some level of equity in the quality of the players, and on Tottenham's bench there is to some of the players we've got on the pitch, then you should be using them, because if you're not using them and the other teams are, they have fresh legs running at exhausted legs. That's why I think that Conte needs to wake up and recognise that having 5 sub rule, it changes quite a lot in the latter stages of the game. And if you're not prepared to use it and the other teams are, it's a double negative for what could happen in the last stages of the game. And we saw it last night. Both of those goals, in my opinion, we don't know whether they would have been stopped had Doherty been on the pitch rather than Emerson. We don't know what would have happened had Longley been on the pitch rather than Davies. We don't know, right? You can't be in 2 places. You can't know 2 scenarios at the same time. So you have to make an educated guess. Would the likelihood of those goals being scored be reduced had we had fresh players on the pitch? I'd put my hat on it and say yes, 100%. The likelihood would have been reduced. To me, him not utilising his bench is going to be a problem, because other teams will, and if we don't and they do, it's a double negative. Half of your outfield team can be fresh in the 90th minute if you utilise your bench effectively, and we don't. So that's where I think Conte needs some criticism and some critique. Bugsy, no, come here please. I also think that the tactics need to be addressed. I do think that Sonny now, I respect and appreciate, that Conte thinks that Sonny would be a wonderful son-in-law and he's a great guy and he's worried about his sensitivity. But you know what? There's other sensitivities you have to consider. And when you played badly for 8 games, and somebody else like Decky, who's been unnecessarily put to the bench and comes on, and every time he comes on looks busy, looks effective, and looks passionate and full of energy and life, to me, I think that Sonny has now run out of chances. And against Leicester, you have to see the 3 ball up front that we haven't seen. You have to see Rishi on the left, Decky on the right, and Kane up front. And by the way, I'm not excusing Harry Kane's performances either, because I think Harry Kane has been way off the ball this season. I think that his 4 or 5 goals that he's scored, I think have flattered to deceive a lot of people into thinking that he's performing better than he really is. I don't think his touch is nowhere near as good. He looks like he's tired. He looks languid and just off it. His focus isn't sharp. His delivery isn't sharp. More and more passes last night that were way off on the weighting and off the accuracy. Bugsy, you come here please, let's go, come on. Sorry, she's getting near the road. So there's a lot of criticism and a lot of critique to be flying around. I will be doing a show tomorrow, maybe even do one today for an hour. But I think that my point of the show is I understand why people that want to say that it's Levy's fault still feel that it's Levy's fault. But where I disagree with them is when they say, you don't blame Conte for this, you blame Levy. And I don't necessarily agree with people that are saying it's all Conte's fault, forget Levy. And I'm someone that has taken on the Levy debate many times in my time in the community, and a lot of people would think of me as a Levy sympathiser. I'll say it for the 100th time, I'm not. I'm someone that challenges the argument, because I don't necessarily think the Levy out debate is fully cogent, or the Levy out argument is fully cogent and well versed and has all the context baked into it. But for me, I think that on this particular occasion, a little bit of blame needs to go one direction, a little bit of blame needs to go in the other direction, and a lot of blame needs to go to some of the players on the pitch that just don't look like they're up for it. We're 8 games into the season. Last night was a boring, horrible watch. Like, the watch along was one of the most painful 2 hours I've done in my life in watching Tottenham. And then to come away with it and be sloppy and sleepy in the last couple of minutes and end up gifting Sporting 3 points when they didn't deserve it during the game. A 0-0 was the right result. We've given them 3 points. They've now got 6 points in the Champions League. We've got 3. It makes our life more difficult to overcome them. And finishing second and finishing first in the end of the group stages, if we do finish first or second, whichever one we get, is going to impact the team we play in the last 16. So silly mistakes like that last night, which could have been overcome with more energy, more fight, and better decision making from the bench, and better decision making from the players on the pitch, could have been avoided. And I hope now that we can learn the lesson. And the last thing I'll say, guys, is I personally believe that what happened last night could be, here's my positive spin to finish off, could be a blessing in disguise. I think that we do know that Conte seems to be quite stubborn. He likes to play his formation. He prepares all week for his games, and that's maybe part of the reason why he's reluctant or hesitant and reactive rather than proactive when it comes to tactical changes and substitution, and the fact that we can play really badly in the first half and it takes until half time to get a rocket shot, put up their arse and see a better performance in the second half, like we did last night. By the way, we came out in the second half and were very dominant for the first 20 minutes of the second half of the game. But all in all, I think that the performance and the result may give Conte the necessary wake-up call to make some changes to the starting 11 that I think he otherwise wouldn't make necessarily as quickly as I hope he will now do for the Leicester game this weekend. I think you have to see Doherty or Spence come in for Emerson. I think you have to see Davies come back in. Davies come out and Longley come back in. I also think you probably need to see either Bissouma or Ollie Skip get some minutes, because I do think that the midfield two of Højbjerg and Bentancur are not quite firing either. And of course, without a shadow of a doubt for me, Sonny has to get on the bench now. You have to spend some time in a meritocracy. If you're not up to it at the moment, you get put on the bench and it's somebody else's chance. And when that somebody else drops his game, then Sonny can come back in. I think it will be the best thing that could have happened for Sonny to have some time on the bench. And I genuinely do believe that if Conte is a phenomenal coach that we all think and know he is, then he should take this opportunity to reflect on some of his decisions and now be forced into making some changes that he otherwise wouldn't have made. And I think whoever comes in, especially with someone like Jed Spence or Matt Doherty, I think if they hit the ground running, they can secure their place in the right wing-back spot, add a far more balance to the team going forward, which ultimately will create more space for Sonny when he does come back into the team in a few games' time. That's my thoughts. Let me know what your thoughts are, whether I'm talking nonsense or not. Bugsy, come here please. Come on. In the comments below. I love you guys. I'll see you later on for a show to talk about all this in more detail. Please like, please share, and please subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell as well so you know when we're going to go live. I'll see you soon. Take care.